May 1st, 2012 marks the 125th anniversary of the existence of the Norfolk Daily News. Through a century and a quarter of elections, floods, sporting events, fires, trials, meetings, and feature stories, the Daily News has provided Northeast and North Central Nebraskans with the information they need to stay informed about friends and neighbors in the state, across the nation, and around the world. All the while, the Daily News also has sought to be of service to its readers and the communities in which they live, Norfolk and the many others in this corner of the state. It's a key part of the philosophy embodied by the Huse family, which will mark its 125th year of ownership of the Daily News in 2013. To mark these anniversaries, Jerry Huse, the fourth-generation publisher of the Daily News, and Emil Reutzel Jr., who recently marked his 50th year of association with the Daily News, sat down to share their thoughts.
Being born into a family of Huses, I guess I'm the fourth generation. When you go back to the beginning in Nebraska, when my great-grandfather came across with a covered wagon and started the first newspaper in Nebraska, in northern Nebraska, I should say, at Ponca. He thought that was going to be the Sioux City of the West. And of course we are blessed with having that heritage, because from that has trickled down additional generations. And of course foremost in our luck, I guess you might say, family luck of this thing, is the fact that we have been able to attract fantastic people to come and be a part of this organization.
Once the youngest publisher of a daily newspaper in Nebraska, and now the oldest publisher, Jerry Huse shares his thoughts on his family's newspaper heritage.
My father made me a publisher at the age of 29, and of course he was a very sick man, and he recognized that it was time to pass the reins. And it was very sad for me, because I really loved him and had great respect for him. We've been blessed now. We have a son, has spent some time here. He was general manager for 3 years, and of course he's still vitally interested, and my gavel will pass to him when I've got to go out of the picture.
Although located now at 525 Norfolk Avenue in downtown Norfolk, the Daily News wasn't always situated there.
That old building was wrapped around the old I forget the name of the theater, Grand Theater or something. There was a vaudeville house next door that my grandfather had built. And of course when talkies came in, they built the Granada, and that was the end of that theater. So that became then the Montgomery Ward store, and the building we wrapped around became the press room. And we had a 3-deck paper press that could print a 14-page paper. It was a 24-page press. But I used to challenge people to tell me, can you figure out how we print 14 pages? And nobody could ever answer that question except me. Because in all honesty, I spent a lot of time in the shop. I love the shop. I love the press. I got it so I was a pretty good pressman. So, and of course this building was really huge. It was all of 20 feet wide.
As a longtime editor of the Daily News, Emil Reutzel began his career in Norfolk after first gaining experience owning a weekly newspaper in Neely and serving in a government role too.
I worked on the Nixon campaign in 1960. That was, of course, before Watergate and all those things.
You want to clarify that, right?
Yeah, I need to clarify that, because if he had won, I'll bet this opportunity wouldn't have happened, which has just been the best thing that has happened to me and our family.
Emil Reutzel shares his thoughts about the vision and leadership demonstrated by Jerry Huse over the years.
I did learn a little bit about the computer. That's what always amazed me about Jerry, being able to transition the plants into new buildings, but also to provide every detail about the mechanics, how you make a transition from letterpress to offset printing, eliminating all the lead and that tough work, and going to offset, and then to computerization.
What's the key to publishing a successful daily newspaper for so many years? Jerry Huse has some definite thoughts on that question.
We've been blessed at the Daily News with fantastic people. And, I get a little credit, but I'm going to give the credit to the people we've had and like this staff for all these years. And I still think we just have great people here. And it's such a pleasure to come to work and see them all. And see them all really doing good jobs. And the kind of product that is being turned out by you and your staff and our advertising people and so forth. It's just great people. It's just such a pleasure to be around them.
One can't have been in the newspaper publishing business for as long as Jerry Huse has been without having some interesting stories to tell, like this one about a meeting Jerry had with Omaha investor Warren Buffett.
I had to go meet Mr. Buffett, and I remember going to his office and we had a nice chat, and he was sitting there holding his back. He said, "My back is really bad." And I said, "I got a couple of good exercises. Let me show them to you." So I get down to the floor in his office, and I have him on the floor in his office doing back exercises. Warren Buffett of all people. And it helped him. And I got a note from him. He says, "You really helped my back. Thank you. You're going to get the job."
A newspaper and its leadership doesn't necessarily have to be involved in the civic affairs of a community, but the Daily News has been, especially Jerry Huse.
I've always been a great advocate of Norfolk, and just naturally I want to help it grow and be a great small city. And so it just leads you into all these activities.
If a newspaper is actively involved in civic affairs and takes on leadership roles, does that raise a question of journalistic integrity?
Often think about being on the action committee with Jerry, and you pick a site for the 3M plant, and 3M decides what they're going to do, and maybe 4 or 5 people in Norfolk know about it, and you'd like to have the story, but it's not quite, the ink's not right, nothing's been signed, so you keep quiet. Well, and in those positions you do know those things, but I think it's no violation of journalistic endeavor to keep a confidentiality when it is important to your community or the life of somebody.
From the Huse family's perspective, the Daily News should be viewed as a community trust.
Take that college, the Johnny Carson Theater. You can go on and make quite a list. What we've gotten done here, just by pulling together the Action Council and so forth to make this a better community.
Why is it important for Norfolk and the area to have a newspaper like the Daily News?
Just because only with your involvement in all phases of the community can the newspaper be a broad influence. If you're just interested in the story and not what happens down the road to the people involved or something, and how you can help, how you can rebuild, if you're not personally interested in that kind of thing, why, your community suffers. There's just not an institution like the newspaper. We're on the record and as a newspaper, and it's important that you be involved, not to try to control things that you shouldn't control, or but to influence them for the better as you see it.
Many newspapers these days are owned by chains or investors who have had no history with running a newspaper. The Daily News is an exception to that trend. Jerry Huse shares his thoughts on the importance of family ownership.
As an independent, bottom line is important. It enables you to thrive and do good things in the community. But that's not our driving force. We love our community. It's a whole different philosophy. And I think that's why those communities that do not have home ownership are really suffering.
Exactly.
You can see the difference in this community.
Yeah.
It's a great town here.
With all the changes going on in society today, including how people obtain their news, the question in some people's minds is, will newspapers survive?
I think they'll survive and do well, but not maybe not on the scope, or not without adjusting to what news really is, and the ability to analyze it and present it fairly. It seems to me that the radio and TV are kind of being advocates too much, or listening to too many voices. You hear them expounding and not as much as informing. So I think the role of the newspaper, like books themselves, should survive. But you have done a marvelous job of adjusting to this era when there's the social media and internet that some people think is enough. Well, if they think enough, that's enough, then they shouldn't be the people we turn to for leadership and thought, because it takes a little more contemplation than that.
See, we have one advantage, particularly locally on the paper, is that we can be strong advocates. And we're also going to have that kind of thing going on in a community of this size. And we do such a great job of reporting where, again, where are they going to get this? Even the radio stations can't begin to give the detail that we give in our paper. And so if somebody wants to be reasonably informed in Norfolk, they sure as heck ought to be subscribing to the newspaper.
There's much more that could be shared, but this is what we'd like to leave you with today. All of us associated with the Norfolk Daily News, from members of the Huse family to our newest employees, are proud of the fact that this newspaper has been informing, enriching, and serving Norfolk and the rest of Northeast and North Central Nebraska for 125 years. And it's our pledge to continue to do so for many years to come. This is Kent Warnicki for the Norfolk Daily News.